Yeah, so it is to get into a bit of your writing process, do you I'm assuming since it's a fairly big series with multiple time periods, you probably have some pretty extensive notes and stuff. But how do you outline a lot? Do you kind of make it up as you go? Like what's that process look like for you?
I start with the best intentions of outlining when I start writing a book. I'll have like a bit of a big beat manifesto, which is like, here's the big kind of moments that I want to hit through the book. And then I'll get about halfway through writing the book and I'll notice that I've completely deviated from what that plan was. And then I'm just flying by the seat of my pants. Usually, I don't have to paint myself into a corner. I haven't had to yet. Um, I try and keep like the distant future of the future books vague. I don't want to pin myself into a defined fate effectively, which is, if you do happen to read all the books, you'll find there's this particular relevance into me saying that. I try to let kind of what the most exciting thing that could happen in the books be the thing that shapes the future of the next books, you know? So, like, if I compared what my original intention for the third book in the Flux Catastrophe series that I'm writing now, if I compare that intention from when I first started out writing these series to what I'm doing now, entirely different books.
Yeah.
They're just worlds apart, effectively.
Yeah. I find that I like to outline. I kind of hard pivoted into outline, but now I kind of in the middle, but I like to outline a lot. I found when I did that early on, when I got into writing, the more I learned about my characters, the more the outline, I'd have to go back and fix the outline and kind of rework it because the characters would do something and I was like, that doesn't fit the outline, but also really fits the character. And so I
Yeah,
found that my characters changed my outlines a lot.
yeah, that's honestly what happens a lot. Like, you are beholden to them. Like the last book I published, I had to take like a 3 month break from writing the first draft because I had a character do something that was so beyond the outline that I was just like, I just needed to replan the entire thing from scratch. It was crazy.
Yeah. I think that's what makes writing so unique too, of like your characters kind of write half the book for you. So like
Yeah,
you have all these intentions and plans and thoughts and ideas, but then your characters do something and you're like, that's not what I was thinking, but also that is what they would do. So it's hard to, it's that's kind of a unique feature I think of other than outside of other creative fields.
yeah. I was about to say that. Like, you can't do that when you're making a movie. Like, if an actor says, "Hey, I've got some great new lines for the script for the scene we're filming," you're like, "Cool, that's a great line," but that breaks like the hours and hours of footage we've already filmed. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I love it so much. You can just chop and change as much as you like.
Yeah, for sure. I like that idea of, alternating the series. I think that's a really fascinating way to, get the books out faster. So you said you had about 14 that you're thinking. Do you have more than that? Or like what happens if in a couple of years from now you got all those out and, here.
Oh, now I'm free. It's finally done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I don't know. No one's actually asked me what I do after I've done all those 14 books. I think that uh, the thing that I'm coming up on is that now I'm writing the last book in one of those series. Like, there's a really kind of heavy finality to the way that I'm approaching it. So I'm never going to return to those characters. I'm never going to return to those moments. But I think the world itself is going to be something that's so ripe for exploration that I'll never be able to kind of leave it properly. Like, I'd love to kind of go out and write some like full on sci-fi without all the apocalyptic sand and stuff like that. But I think I'm always going to come back to the Droughtlands because it just feels like home for me. Like, it's been within me and now out of me for coming up on 10 years now. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. I have this same kind of, I talk with my brother a lot about writing and he's like, do you have any other ideas? I'm like, no, I have this idea
What's
and
wrong with this idea?
I have a lot of ideas within this, but I have no like there's like nothing outside of it. I don't I have really no other like stories outside of this one that I'm wanting to do. So I resonate with that.
Yeah, and I think the scary bit about that is like, you have all these ideas that are like really hooked into this one world, but that just puts a lot of pressure on the first book you write to be good enough to get people into it. Like
Mhm.
it needs to, because like everyone knows that their first book isn't going to be their best, but it just needs to be good enough that people are going to get into it. So yeah, like it's scary putting out that first book. Like when you get there, like you'll probably feel kind of nervous, but like that's natural, right? Like
Yeah.
it's going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always nerve-wracking whenever you put anything creative out there. I was a musician in my previous life. That's what I always did, and
Mm.
um, doesn't seem to matter what creative thing you jump into. There's always that little bit of nerve-wracking moment when you put it out there, and so I think writing is another kind of unique feature of that. Is it takes even if it takes you a year to write a book, that's still a long time to sit with one creative project, and a lot of writers will sit for years and years with a project. So once you do finally put it out there, it's like it's like a
Yeah, this
baby
is my
that you're like,
baby,
this is my
Yeah,
thing, and then you put it out there finally, and like a song or something, you write a song, maybe it takes you a couple months. I don't think you spend as much time with them, and so I think writing becomes more nerve-wracking that way.
yeah. And I think one of the other things that I have trouble with these days is like there's no instant feedback when someone buys a book. My
Hmm.
wife's an artist. They do these amazing pencil drawings of Australian native birds. And when someone buys one of their prints, that's like, wow, that's amazing. I'm going to hang that on the wall. Like they've
Hmm.
seen the full product. They've gone, this is the thing I need in my life, and they're in. But like when someone buys a book, like they're having a lot of faith in you, but you got to wait for them to get around to read it, and you probably won't even hear back from them to see if like they did like it or not. So the gratification that you're hoping for, it's pretty few and far between.
Yeah, even if you were standing in the bookstore right next to them when they bought
Yeah,
it, they still couldn't tell you right away, because
it's like,
like
yeah,
a
it sounds good. Yeah.
yeah, like an art piece, it's like they can buy it and they can look at it and say, this is great. But with the book, it's like you buy the book and be like, see you in a couple months,
Yeah.
yeah.